Okay, so again, today we're going to focus on solving equations with squares. We're only going to do 3 steps because we're going to eliminate step 3. So anything is in the pink highlighted, we're not going to do. So we're only going to have 3 steps for solving equations with squares. The first step, you're going to put a box around the square, only around what's being squared. Then we're going to use a golden rule to get the square by itself. We're still going to circle our variable. We're still going to draw our line of equality. Once you get the square by itself, then you can move down to step 2. Step 2 says take the square root of both sides of the equation. Now we take the square root because square root is inverse operation of square. This will get rid of the square. Then, like I said, we're going to move this last step up to the step 3. Then you're going to solve the equation as usual. So those are our 3 steps. So it's almost just like solving square roots, except for this time, instead of solving for square roots, we're solving for squares. So go ahead, example number 1, write this down. While you're writing example number 1 down, I'm going to go through the week. So today we're doing solve an equation with squares. You guys are going to get worksheet 3.3. This worksheet's going to be due on Wednesday. Tomorrow when you guys come in, we're going to do 11-19 opener. So we're going to do an opener from last week. I'm going to give you another worksheet that's going to be due on Thursday. The worksheet that I'm going to give you tomorrow is going to have squares and square roots. Wednesday when you come in, we'll do another opener from the previous week to kind of get us caught back up. And then we're going to use the remainder of Wednesday to work on worksheet 3.4 and 3.5. Thursday when you come in, we're going to do an opener. Then after that opener, we're going to do solving equations with squares and square roots, and that's going to be the quiz that we were going to take last week, but because of all of our days got messed up, we changed it. And any time left over Thursday will be Khan Academy. Then Friday, if you notice up here, I have assessment. I gave you guys a paper pencil test beginning of the school year. We're going to take that paper pencil test again to see if your score has improved. And then the rest of Friday will be for makeup. So if you don't have worksheets 3.1 through 3.5 completed, you'll have the remainder of Friday for do that. You'll also get a big old paycheck on Friday for the last like 2.5 weeks.
So to get my stuff.
Yeah, because the snow day, I usually make all the paychecks on Thursday, but because of the snow day, we didn't have school this past long time ago Thursday, and then we came in for Thanksgiving. It just kind of messed our schedule up. Kaylin.
I feel like you gave me 11-19 or 11-16 already.
Okay, we'll check it out. We'll look at it. We'll go from there. Okay, so example number 1, we're solving the equation. Now we know this equation is a square because it has that little exponent too. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to circle my variable. I'm going to draw my line of equality. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a box around what's being squared. Well, this one's kind of easy. What's being squared here? Just the a, right? So I'm going to put a box around the a squared. Now, is my box by itself? Is there anything else that I need to get rid of on this side to get the square by itself? No. I saw you shake your head, David. No. So what that means, we're going to move down to step 2. Step 2 says take the square root of both sides. If we take the square root of both sides, this cancels the square. So write your square root in, show that that square root cancels, and whatever you draw on one side of the line of equality, we draw on the other side of the line of equality. So then we come down, we bring our variable a down, and then what's the square root of 25? 5. So the square root of 25 is a perfect square. If you don't remember your perfect squares, you guys can always use your calculator, or you can always think what number times itself will get you to 25. Now, a square root of 25 could be 5, or what other number can you multiply together to get 25? Could be 5 or negative 5. So that's where you could get your second answer, which I'm not making you guys do. Okay? All right, moving right along. Example number 2. Go ahead and write it down. So 3 equals b squared minus 1. 3 equals b squared minus 1. I don't have his binder. You guys took it down with you guys.
Okay, it's probably still down there, so I'll have to go grab it. I'll be right back. I'll get your binder.
December 16th.
18.
Yeah, I'm ready for that piece.
Okay, once you have it written down, go ahead and start using the steps to solve. You're going to circle your variable. So we're circling our variable. We're going to put a line down through our line of equality, through our equal sign. What's the next step I need to do? Box what? Yeah, so I'm going to box my square. The whole reason why I'm boxing the square is because I want to get this by itself. So what do I have to get rid of in order to get the box by itself? Look, so this is my line that separates my sides, right? I want to get this box by itself. So what do I have to get rid of?
The 1.
Yeah, so I have a minus 1. What's the inverse operation for minus 1? Plus 1. So whatever I do to one side, I must do to the other. Okay, so then we look on this side. Jalen, what do I do on my left side of my line of equality here?
So what?
What do I do on my left side of the line of equality here? Hey guys, I don't appreciate people shouting out answers. Jalen, up here.
It's 4, so what you did.
Okay, so how did you get that?
3 plus 1.
Okay, now on my right side, Jalen, what do I bring down?
The B squared.
The b squared. So now is my square by itself? Yes or no?
No.
Is my square by itself?
No.
Is there anything that's not with the square?
What?
Yes, you got this.
That's why.
So is the square by itself?
Yeah.
Yes. So if the square is by itself,
You gotta
Take that 2 out.
How?
And then put
no.
the square root sign.
Put your square root sign. So Kaylon, if you look at step 2, it tells you to get your square root sign. Hey Michael, have a seat. Don't plug your phone in right now. We're in the middle of class. That's okay. I'm not worried about your phone right now. Have a seat. You need to have example number 2 down. So because the square is by itself, step 2 says take the square root of each side to get rid of the square. So I'm going to show that square and square root cancel. So if the square and square root cancel, what do I bring down on my right side of my line of equality? Yeah, just the b. Then my equal sign. Then on my left side, the square root of 4. What's the square root of 4 going to be? Not too bad, is it?
This means what I got everything done. See you? I'm looking.
No, you don't. I'd take a point off your quiz right now if you're taking it.
Wow. Man.
That would. It'd be 1 point.
Wow, that ain't nothing.
Well, if it's 5 points and you miss 1 point, that takes you to a 4 out of 5,
Okay.
which takes you to an 80.
Okay, that's smooth.
The next point would drop you to a 60.
I won't miss it next time.
Mm-hmm. We'll find out on Thursday, won't we?
Yeah.
Okay. Example number 3. We have d minus 4 in parentheses squared equals 25. So on the back side, you need to take your pencil. You need to write example number 3 down. Now, I didn't put a box around my square. What's being squared here? Jalen? Or, not sorry, Kaylon?
Huh?
What's being squared here?
The whole parentheses.
Yeah, the whole parentheses. Good. Because, no, we're going to have some problems coming up, and especially on our worksheet, that it's going to get confusing of what exactly is being squared. Well, because this whole thing is in parentheses and the 2's right on the outside of parentheses, it means that whole thing is being squared. So if this whole thing is being squared, is there anything outside of the box that I need to get rid of on this side of the line of equality?
No.
None. So then that means the square is by itself. I move to step 2. Kara, what's step 2 say to do?
Take the square root of both sides of the equation.
Good. So take the square root of both sides of the equation. What's this do by taking the square root of both sides of the equation?
It cancels out the square.
It cancels out the square and the square root. Good. Sorry, Mr. Betts is uploading things to Google Classroom. So that cancels. So because that cancels, I'm going to bring down my d minus 4. Now, it's not necessary for the parentheses to stay around it anymore. So I just bring down my d minus 4. Then on my right side, I have to determine what the square root of 25 is. 5. Now, this is where this example problem is going to be a little bit different because the d, the variable, is still not by itself. So now I have to get the variable by itself. It's a one-step equation. So what do I have to get rid of? The plus 4. So the inverse of minus 4 is plus 4. So we're going to bring down the d equals, and then, Deja, what's 5 plus 4? What's 5 plus 4, Deja? 9. Box it. Circle your variable. Get in the habit of doing it now. I'm just good. Box your answer.
That's gonna be a point off your box, right?
That's right.
Hey, so you just going
That's gonna take you to 80%. The next time you're gonna get to an E or C, whatever you're gonna do.
D.
Oh, that's C.
Why you look at you?
All right. Moving right along. Let's look at example number 4. Sorry, I didn't know which way you're
It was
going.
actually in your mailbox.
Oh.
I put it in the other day and I was like,
Yeah, I don't check my mail. I have the Hope Club to check it for me. Okay, example number 4. It's a little bit longer. So we have 4e minus 17 in parentheses squared divided by 3 minus 3 equals 0.
Hold on, before you
I'm not even gonna get going yet.
Can you yeah, I just want to copy it down right quick.
So before I even determine what my square is, I know I'm going to have multiple steps or multiple numbers that I'm going to have to get rid of. So I'm going to have to follow a certain order to get rid of all the numbers, to get the square and to get the variable by itself. Because I have multiple numbers to get rid of, what mnemonic device am I going to use to help me remember where I start? SADMAP. Good. What is SADMAP?
So backwards appendix.
Okay, and what is PEMDAS? What's PEMDAS tell us? No, you're... I am. So subtraction, addition, division, multiplication, exponents, and parentheses. So what that basically is order of operations backwards. So first thing I need to do with my new notes is box the square. So what's being squared here? What's being squared? So what's in the parentheses? So I'm going to put a box around that whole thing here. So you're putting a box around what's being squared. Remember, the squared's on the outside of the parentheses, so it's squaring this whole thing. Now, if you look here, we have a 3, a divided by 3, and we have a minus 3. This is when you relate and you go up to SADMAP. Kaylin, thanks for raising your hand. According to SADMAP, what do I get rid of first? What's that S stand for?
Subtraction?
So do you see a subtraction problem here?
Yeah, right there.
So that's what we're going to get rid of first is that minus 3. So we're going to do what with that minus 3?
What times the addition?
Yeah.
It'd be 0.
No, wait. So we're going to add 3. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other.
6. No, it's going to be 3.
Time out. So this cancels. Take it one step at a time. Because this is where some people tend to get confused. They try to do too many steps in one part. So I'm doing one step at a time. So then I'm going to just bring down what I have up above so I don't forget. So I have 4e minus 17. That's still in parentheses. That's still squared. Divided by 3. And then on my right side, I'm going to take 0 plus 3 to get what, Kaylin?
It's 3.
Good. Okay, now, we still have where the square's not by itself. Okay, so we still have that's being squared here. So I have to get rid of this 3. Danielle, how am I going to get rid of this 3 here? The opposite of divide is multiply. So I'm going to multiply each side by 3. So I'm going to come back and I'm going to rewrite everything that I have not gotten rid of, which is going to be the 4e minus 17. I still have the parentheses. I still have the squared sign, equals. And then on my right side, what's 3 times 3? What's 3 times 3? 9.
Yes, you will.
Hey guys, I don't appreciate all the random talk-outs that we're having. So let me move it up. From here, is my square by itself? Is the square by itself? What I had boxed up here, is that box finally by itself?
Yes.
Yeah. So what I had boxed up here, if I look down here, there's no other number to get rid of. So now I'm ready to move to step 2. So Jaden, how do I get rid of the square? How do I get rid of this square? After I've completed step 1, I go to step 2. What's step 2 say to do? Perfect. So I'm going to square root both sides. So now notice, I'm only putting the square root sign. Don't put the square root sign and the square sign. Only draw the square root sign. So I'm going to show that square root and square cancel. So if square root and square cancel, Jaden, what do I bring down on my left side?
4e minus 4e negative 16.
Perfect. And now you no longer need the parentheses. We're going to put our equal sign. Then what's the square root of 9? 3. And now we're to a 2-step equation. So it's what we started with, the third triad. So we have 4e minus 17 equals 3. David, what do I get rid of first here? And 4e minus 17 equals 3.
Once you get rid of the negative 17.
I would. And the opposite of minus 17 is?
Plus 17.
Oh, I didn't mean to do that same color. So whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. So if you notice, I'm going through doing one step at a time. So on my left side, I bring down 4e. On my right side, what's 17 plus 3, you guys? 20. And I'm down to a one-step equation. How do I get
Division.
the variable e by itself? I divide by what, Damon? 4. And I'm going to run out of room, you guys. So 20 divided by 4 is? 5. Good, Kira. And that's our final answer. Should have wrote a little bit smaller up here, huh? Now, before we move to example number 5 and example number 6, I'm going to warn you now, I'm totally changing up what they're going to look like. So before you get overwhelmed with what it looks like, I want you to stop and think about how you could possibly solve it. Okay? So let's take a look at example number 5. Before you get overwhelmed, take a second to look at it. So you have 6 squared equals f squared plus 4 squared. Now, because each of these numbers are being squared, the first thing that you'll probably want to do is what? Anybody have an idea? Kaylon?
You would want to write your square root sign at the top of all of them.
No. Let's try it. That's a good guess. Like I said, this is going to be a different type of an example problem, and that was a really good guess. Anybody else have a guess on what you should do?
How about you guess?
I know it.
I said you guess.
What's that? What could you do with the 4? Nope.
No.
You can get, oh, I know it.
Go ahead.
You can get the 4, no, you can get the F all by itself whenever you start by the 4.
Nope.
I thought he was right.
What? You start at 6?
Okay, I'll give you. Yeah. Let's start with the 6. What am I going to do with it?
Don't you take away from it?
Nope.
Nothing.
No, put the screw up. Screw up.
Simple.
To the other side.
Nope. Nice guess. Simplify.
Oh.
So if I'm going to go through and simplify first, well, what does simplify mean? What does that mean? If I say to simplify it before starting to solve it, what does that mean?
Divide.
So you finna.
And simplify where you like do the thing.
Where you solve it. Well, where you solve what you can. Can I simplify anything here? Can I simplify 6 squared?
Yes.
Yeah, what is it?
36, 2.
36.
He said 362.
No idea, I said 36.
Can I simplify? Can I simplify f squared? No, it's still a variable with the squared. And then can I simplify 4 squared?
Yes.
Yeah, what's 4 squared?
I don't got my number showing.
8.
Not 4 times 2, it's 4
4
times
times
4, which is
16.
16.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, now,
He told you.
if you look at this equation now, it's what we've done in our previous examples. So what's being squared here? What's the last thing that has the square to it, attached to it? The f. Now, we're going to go ahead and box the f.
Okay.
Now, I circled my variable up here, so I don't need to necessarily circle it down here because I'm showing that I know where my variable is. I'm showing that I know where my square is. So the reason why I'm boxing the square is because I want to get the square by itself. If I want to get the square by itself, what do I have to get rid of first? If I want to get this square by itself, what do I... That plus 16. How do I get rid of that plus 16? What's the opposite of plus 16?
Oh, negative. I'm tripping.
Sorry, were you going ahead and solving it for me? Okay, what did you get then, Jalen, when you took 36 minus 16? Not negative 20, but 20.
Okay.
So then what am I able to bring down on my right side of my line of equality?
So you want to put down your F squared.
Now is my square
same
by
amount.
itself.
You can do your square.
Yes.
So I draw a square root sign on one side.
Other.
I draw a square root sign on the other side.
That's what I'm doing. Now you want to cross the square.
Make sure you show that that square and square root cancel. So on my right side, what do I bring down?
The F.
F. On my left side, what's the square root of 20?
5.
Mm-mm.
10, 15, 24.
Mm-mm.
Man, how you gonna tell me I'm the
So if it's not 4, and it's not 5, is the square root of 20 a perfect square?
Yeah.
No. So if we end up where the square root is not a perfect square, I have to simplify this. So this is going to be bringing information in from second triad. So I'm going to come over down here to the left. So I have the square root of 20. I have to simplify that. So I have to think, what two numbers can I multiply together to get 20? Okay, so 2 and 10. 2 is prime, so I circle it. 10 is composite. So what two numbers can I multiply together to get 10? And?
Oh, I sure forgot all about this.
Okay. So I'm going to drop down here. Because it's a square root, I put my square root sign. Michael, do you remember what I put under my square root sign?
That's too much work.
Hey. Do you know what I put under my square root sign here? Can you show me? What did I put under there?
2 times 2 times 5.
Perfect. Okay. Once I put my prime numbers under my square root sign, what's my next step I do? Come on.
Circle them pairs.
Circle in pairs. What happens with those pairs?
What is your favorite fruit, a pear?
What happens with the pairs? Damon, keep going.
You eat them.
What happens with the pairs you circle?
You put them in the outside number.
Cancels, becomes a single number on the outside. So then what's going to be stuck on the inside? 5. So f is going to equal 2 square root 5.
Okay.
That's as hard as it gets. Okay? Just a quick quiz question. All right. What's the outside number called?
2 over 5.
What's this outside? No, what's that?
square root
What's the
5.
outside number called?
2 square root 5.
That's how you'd say it.
What about
What's the inside number called?
The racket.
The radicand. Who said that?
That's key. That
Jalen. What's the outside number called? Nobody knows the outside. Starts with a C. Yin yang. All right.
Goldfish, I just said.
Okay. Let's take a look at example number 6. Go ahead and write it down, please. Example number 6.
I want to go home.
Example number 6.
Bro, that wasn't me on.
Jalen, that's a talk out.
No, I only want 1 milk. I want you two.
So we have g squared equals 5 squared plus 5 squared. So this one's fairly similar to the last one, except for this time the variable's on the left side. Raise your hand if you think you know how to start this particular problem. Deja? What am I going to do with the 5s? Okay, so go ahead and do that for me. What's 5 squared plus, what's 5 squared going to be? 25. What's my other 5 squared going to be? Okay. I bring my g what down? Okay. Now, can I continue to simplify? Is there anything else I can simplify? Yeah. So what do? No. What else can I simplify? My variable's over here with the square. It's by itself. So what can I simplify on my right side of the line of equality? What are the like terms up here? What are my like terms here? Anybody help her out?
I don't know. What was the question?
Well, let's look here. My variable's by itself with the square.
Yeah.
So I can't really do anything to this side yet. So I look on this side, and I have 25 plus 25. Yeah. So when we add them together, what do we get? So we're going to add them together. We're going to get g squared equals 50. Now, we're kind of at a standstill. I have the g squared, and I have the 50. I can't do anything on my right side because it's already been simplified out. So now I have to get rid of the square sign. Because the square is by itself, the right side's been simplified, so how do I get rid of the squared sign?
You gotta make the square root.
So if I square root one side,
Square root the other. And you gotta
so square and square root cancel.
Yeah.
From here, I bring down my g equals, and then what's the square root of 50?
5.
It's not a perfect square again, so we're going to have to come up, and we're going to have to simplify it. So Kira, what two numbers can I multiply together to get 50? Okay, for 10? And what do I do with these numbers? It's going to be what then? Nah.
No, 2 times 5 times 5.
There you go. Then what?
You start from the first two bars. Cross one of them out, becomes the outside, which would be 5 square root 2.
Perfect. So my final answer, so the square root of 50 is going to be what, Kara?
5 square root 2.
Will you give me answers?
And then that's going to be your final answer.
Yeah.